Some people have that little countdown thingy. No, not this guy. Hey, what's up, Scott? Welcome to the Imagination Creation Films. And today we're going to turn off that because that is annoying. Oh, that was even worse. Never mind. It's Friday. Yeah, Friday, June 14th, 2024. Still this year. It's been a year. And that means it's a live stream time. It's live stream time with you, wonderful people, and me, just plain me. And then we'll be having Phil Holland on here in just a bit. So all the fun things. Hopefully everything is going well. The audio hopefully is good. It should be good because I tested it, because I told you I would test it from now on, forever and ever. Amen. And 55 seconds, that's all I did. Make sure I don't get any Bitcoin mining stuff. Hey, there I am singing. So it is a wonderful, wonderful Friday afternoon. I am back from Cinegear. I'm not rested. I literally worked yesterday. Good stuff, though. I do enjoy working. It's always fun. Everyone should enjoy working. But Cinegear was right just a few days ago, and lots of cool stuff from there. Lots of announcements that happened afterwards too. That was a little odd, but we'll be happy to bring Phil on if he gives me a thumbs up. I'll just bring him into the. Yeah, we're going to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Phil Holland. Hey, Phil, how is he? How are you?
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. Well, you're paused. There you are. There. Yeah.
Do I
you
sound
were paused
okay?
For a moment. Yeah, you sound great.
Okay. It gave me an error the first time I joined, and I was like, oh, no, something has changed. But
surprise! I'm waiting for the sun to just hit you, and you look like you've blocked it off.
I'll lead with my raspy voice and my slightly runny nose. Pay no attention to that. I'm still kind of recovering from a week of talking all day.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I'll be downing a little bit of this today and enjoying one of these. So I'll be raspy and coffee here in just a moment. So
nice. I'll have to acquire some props.
Right. you need some props. Definitely props. Let's see here. We got Ollie says, evening of the goods. Danny says, greetings from Texas, a 2-day drive from Los Angeles. Yes. Or a short plane flight, unless you're flying into L.A., and then you get 8 hours delayed. Phil, how was your flight today?
I fly to Texas when I go there most of the time these days, but the drive is about 16 hours if I go straight, kind of to the Austin area, where I kind of usually go to. Dallas is kind of the same. Yeah. I haven't been out there in a minute, though.
Yeah.
I miss
calling you. Ollie says, saw you sitting on a dolly slider. Explain yourself. It was neat. Did you go, Phil? I didn't see you at the Cinegear. Were you there, or did you end up?
I didn't do Cinegear. The balancing act I had to do this year was various Cinegear events, the show, business meetings, social occurrences, which typically happen quite late at night. And it was just, my days were very full. And even though Cinegear is very close to where I live,
It is very close to where you live.
Were you on a flighter?
So I have the brochure in the house. It's a guy has developed this kind of think of a larger, more robust version, and I say robust, not that the Kessler City or shuttle dolly is not robust, but it's so robust you can ride on it, and he has a lift mechanism on it that you can motorize and control. Are you
talking about the Mighty Works stuff?
I think so. It was all like polished aluminum, like he just finished it. I've got the brochures in the house. I forgot to grab them.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, I did see it at the show, and it had basically like a platform that goes up with a gear.
Yes, it says a lift, kind of thing. And then it had a 6-truck version of a slider.
They make
I offered.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said like the whole thing for like the big one with the really tall lift, motorized and everything would be under $20,000, which is pretty reasonable. It's way cheaper than a Fisher.
Yeah.
And then you could get the lifts themselves for, I think he said they were going to start under 3 for the small one and then kind of go up from there. Very,
Yeah.
very cool stuff. I'll
It needs
try
to
to figure out how to.
be. I tinkered with it for a bit. If you're going to use it for really smooth movement, you need to weight it down because even the geared mechanism was integrating a little bit. But I mean, there hasn't been anyone who's released something like that. And
No,
for people who do motion control, what is nice is on the slider platform, as the camera's raising, it's never going off the
yeah,
center axis.
yeah. There's no
So
arc to it. It's a
yeah, it goes straight up. So you should never have any tilt risk as long as you're level, which isn't exactly the same as some other solutions.
right, and it's I mean, it's basically a small version of a Fisher as far as the mechanism goes. I did get a chance to look inside of a Fisher. Somebody posted some pictures, and I, of course, saved them and immediately studied them. But that mechanism it's just a sliding multi-link that is on a long threaded rod. It seemed pretty reasonable. I offered some suggestions because they only had it where you sit side saddle, so it's for a side-to-side dolly move. I said I would like to go forward and back, so give me some saddles on both sides and let me sit on it normally. And he's like, we could do that.
Yeah. They have a nice enclosed track system, and then they have their sort of, Kessler / Dana Dolly platform. Nobody has made a wide solution like Matthew's Duty Dolly, which also
Right.
can hold a human being if you're determined to do so.
Right.
It's kind of interesting. We've gotten pretty wild with slider dollies because there's definitely ones that are too narrow that are not enclosed platforms that the center of gravity takes you into a wiggle space. But like
Right.
the Cine Slider, which is like ancient now, since
Right.
it's enclosed, it doesn't really suffer from that too much.
Yeah, it's quite secure, but still, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want to use the city slider because it's so narrow. They want that wide platform just so they feel, because they're going to rig their camera up tall. Makes sense.
I was happy to see ProSup at Cinegear, which I think they missed a year or two, but they make one of my favorite enclosed slider dollies. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but it's the one with the, how do you describe it? It's got wheels coming in on the diagonal and wheels coming in on the top. So it keeps it very rigidly supported and it goes over the rods. It's just incredibly well built stuff. There's been 2 knockoffs of it so far to date, but I know a lot of people who are doing some pretty high-end work with that system as well.
Mighty Works is, that's what Craig, hello, Craig. Curtis Boggs, hello, sir.
Oh, that's
Phil,
Curtis.
your post reminded me of Grizzly Man.
What did I post that reminded you of that?
I don't know, probably the picture of me.
Oh.
I need to update my photo a little more. Let's see here. Got my
Yeah, I
picture
need
ready
to
go.
grow out my beard to be part of this club.
Yeah,
You and
should.
Tim are like way ahead of me on that one.
Yeah, Tim takes it long, so I'm like, oh, I'll try it. I'll try to go long.
I illustrated at Cinegear to somebody why I got rid of my long hair up here a long time ago by using a shoulder rig. And the second you get your hair caught in a shoulder rig, you never want long hair again.
This is very accurate. My hair was taken from me at a young age. I do not have long hair. I have a hat and a beard. Let's see. Is Warner Brothers the default location from now on? I don't think so, but
We don't
who
know.
knows? Because Paramount
I
was
really
for sale.
liked Warner Brothers as a host location, and frankly, like between Warner Brothers and Universal, they have a lot more space. Universal has a lot more space if they really want to go nuts on the back lot. But it was a little bit more walking than I think people were used to.
It was and very poorly coordinated with Cinegear and the folks at Warner Brothers. But like the trees, walking down the streets with trees was amazing. It was
Yeah, especially when the sun came out. I mean, I definitely got a little bit of a sunburn. I don't know if it's still apparent.
Tim was all lobstered out. He was complaining the whole way. It's like, why didn't I wear sunscreen? I don't know.
There were maps being handed out at the entryway. I got in before each day started, but the second day I saw the map guy and I was like, oh, people just needed to take a map or have better signs to know where the stages were and stuff like that.
Well,
That was the other thing I saw people like, where's the food? Where's the stages? Yeah.
like they had 3 stages listed originally, and then they added a 4th that I didn't know about. And the only way to get to the 4th was to go through the 3rd one, which you may not see. You
I
had
got
to go
lost
through
and ended
it.
up in background on something they were filming. So
Yeah, and there was a live set there going on too. I was like,
yeah,
and then I always felt bad for the tour groups because they didn't stop the tours. So the studio
No.
tours were
I
just
think
going
that was
straight
kinda cool,
through.
though. Because even the people who are really not familiar with this industry, they saw something of an industry event that they probably wouldn't have experienced in any other way, and they probably didn't know in that crowd were DPs that shot their last 10 favorite movies, kind of thing.
Right.
So I like that aspect of it.
I did have a little fun. I would put like a folder over my head. I'm like, oh, shield me, shield me. And a couple of people go, oh, who's that? It's just me.
Nice.
I mean, I would prefer Warner Brothers to be from now on. I mean, the parking was a disaster. Did you run into that fun?
I got in early, so I missed all of that, except for the second day when I pulled in. They had me pull into one parking structure, and right before I went in the structure, he had me drive across the lot to closer to where gate 3, or actually all the way across the lot and out to gate 3, which was fine. You know, I still had like 2 hours of free time before the show started.
Yeah. I mean, we got there early. We had vendor badges, and we were there well plus an hour early, and went to the same parking lot we went to the previous day. And they're like, oh yeah, you have to park over here. So we drive all the way around over there, and they're like, oh no, you have to park over here. We had to drive all the way over there. Then they had to move us over here. And then we went back to the original thing, and I could see them turning them around. So I just went through the truck entrance and said, screw it. And
I did talk to some of the Cinegear and Warner Brothers staff. So both days they capped admittance at some point because they were saying they were at capacity, and apparently there's a ratio between security and attendees, or just people on the lot. So I think if they do this next year, up that for another 5,000 or so people.
Well, they did up it on Saturday quite a bit. People on Friday, there were lines for about 4 hours to get in at capacity. On Saturday, they hired or brought in more security. There were still people. There was a line of about 40 or 50 people at the one little gate we left trying to get in. But I heard that it was the busiest Cinegear ever at 20,000.
Interesting. Okay.
That's a lot.
I have to look at my notes on attendance, but that's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's a much more
felt
intimate
really
show,
busy.
and I really appreciate. It's kind of an interesting thing because I feel like NAB is still like the gigantic event that covers so many different parts of the industry. But Cinegear being so production oriented, it's much nicer to, get direct. Almost every booth is someplace you stop at Cinegear if you're a production person. Whereas you can literally avoid entire halls at NAB. Somehow won a Portuguese monitor at the Atlas Lens Co giveaway. Yep, that's good.
Portuguese.
Yeah.
Poor Portuguese. They 5 of their boxes didn't arrive the first day, and so they had their monitors, but they had no signage. They had nothing, and then they finally got them.
I've seen Dan from Atlas Lens Co quite a few times this year, and he's having the time of his life right now. He's really. I've known him for a very long time, and he's had a lot of interesting things happen to him along the way, but he genuinely is having a lot of fun right now, and I do appreciate seeing that. Pre-ordered the C400.
Brandon Talbot says he's bummed that he missed you, but he was glad to catch up with me.
Dang, that sucks.
Yeah, C400 is an interesting camera. Did you spend much time with it? I know you took pictures of it.
I was at the Canon launch event at Canon Burbank. I can say now that I was privy to it back in March, and I got to look at it early April. Interesting camera. I think the price to performance ratio is good. My immediate thoughts back in April was like, wow, what could you guys do for 16 grand? Something like that.
Yeah, well, we'll find out next year. I mean,
how spicy should I get this? Because I'm one of the few people.
Go for spice, because I've got some some interesting rumors on the C400
Well,
too.
for those who shoot with the FX6, which is a camera I quite like in that price realm, you know, in the
It's a hell of a camera for the money.
Yeah, so the C400, due to its triple base ISO as well as being higher resolution, is in fact cleaner in low light. So if that's something of importance, that is something to note.
Well, and people were
Um,
comparing it a lot to the FX6, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. The FX6 is only 4K. This thing shoots 6K.
well, it shoots. Well, man, that's a whole deep
5.9.
conversation. Hard
Okay.
nerd stuff. I would have preferred it to be 6144 wide, the DCI spec. It is exactly 6,000 wide,
It is
and
that
I
wide,
have suspicions for that, but
but how tall is it?
it's not exactly a full frame sensor. So it's the full frame width,
Yeah.
and Canon is really adhering to a matter of respect, adhering to 36 millimeter wide sensors at the moment,
Okay.
which is the proper width for full frame. So, you know, kudos for them. But if they made that thing a little teeny bit wider to get that 6144, I think that camera would be even more useful for some folks.
It's true, but I hear future firmware update will change the vertical dimensions a little bit.
Can't speak to that.
I officially can because I'm not NDA'd, but I just got some wind, some
The
broken
biggest
wind,
one
if you
I
will.
mentioned at the Canon event is it needs to have 1.5 x anamorphic supported.
I think for the money, it's pretty silly of a good deal. You're getting a lot of bang for the buck. It's in its infancy. It's got a little bit of room to grow. The negatives to me is I wish Canon would try to abandon the potato. You know, the forced putting every accessory that they make on it because you have to use their handle.
Well, let's widen out a bit. This is their first RF cinema camera.
Yes.
It's their first-party PL mount that supports /I. So these are all good things for filmmakers.
Indeed.
And I hope this is mirrored through other cameras they release throughout the year. You know, if we get another, you know, R5-ish camera, you know, will it be able to mount that RF mount to PL adapter and have it secure with the little teeny strap things that they have? Those are questions that we don't know yet.
Those are things that are not public, right? I would say the C400 is about an 85% to 90% positive camera. The 10 to 15% that are negatives are like you're saying, it's the little things. Like you could have gone DCI. I would have liked a little bit of freedom with the body a little bit, but for the most part, it's kind of impressive, especially for
I would have preferred two 12G SDIs instead of the 12G 3G combo thing they have. HDMI on there is smart. Mini XLR, I don't mind Mini XLR. A lot of people do have quibbles with it. I had a few conversations with people who, like my Komodo X has virtually not been in my hand since I bought it because it's been going out on jobs or going to people who have needed it for things. So a lot of people were asking me about that versus Komodo X, and you know, Komodo X has the global shutter, Super 35 sensor.
They're intermixed, but they're not quite the same.
They're all in that sub 10 grand bracket, and I think right now, at least from my perspective, quite a few cameras in the sub $50,000 range, most of them have a very good price to performance ratio. And from I own cameras. I own a lot of cameras. I own too much of everything at this point. But the thing that I want is a high value proposition for what you invest in and the tools to perform on a level that you need them to. I've been making a clear delineation between what I consider a production camera and what isn't. And I dude, right at the Canon event, I was sitting next to a guy who shoots weddings. I don't do weddings. I don't do anything like that. And he didn't know I got to see the camera first, but before the event, he's telling me about what he does and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm like 90% you're buying this camera based off of what you told me. Like
Right.
what he shoots, how he shoots it. This camera was built for a guy like him. So, yeah.
Somebody said your still that you created or slide looks like a head-to-head boxing tournament. So
Oh,
we got
God.
to face off here in a minute.
I should have put some Street Fighter graphics on that or something.
Right? That would have been pretty good. I mean,
We
it's also
got to see
important.
something else, by the way, at that Canon launch event, which I think is even more important from my perspective.
Do
Because
tell.
there's going to be other Cine EOS
Yes.
cameras,
Yes, there will.
or Cinema EOS. We got to see that 35 VCM, the new Prime. And man, that lens produced a lot of thoughts in my mind.
I played with it a little bit at their booth, and it was kind of a pretty lens. It was unique.
I like a lot about it. The size is great. The price is cheaper than I expected. But I knew with that size, there's no way that distortion was going to be corrected at that f-stop. And
Right.
this is one of those hard ones where Canon at the moment is relying on quite a few of their lenses for that post lens or in-camera lens correction.
And I personally don't like that at all because I want a lens to stand on its own.
I can see both sides of it, but for professional productions that are a little bit more sensitive about, a 5% or 25% correction on the corners, you're losing a lot of your resolution. And the crazy thing is the lens at 1.4 resolves. So the design of the lens with its sort of barrel distortion nature, it's sharp. I shot a flat wall. I've been to the Warner Brothers a lot over the years, and I totally abused one connection I had there. So I grabbed my R5. I brought it with me my second day. Hiked around a building. I knew where there's a flat brick wall, and I shot a still of it just to see what the distortion was like. Brought that home, and in the corner at 1.4, I was rather impressed. But you have to correct that distortion. So
yeah,
the bokeh is beautiful.
It looked very nice on the C400. I got to play with it too. I understand, like, if you are in that ecosphere, then it means the world to you because you can get an affordable lens that works on your camera and it looks great. But the rest of the world, it needs to stand on its own, and I don't like that kind of correction that you rely on that.
That's a good question. Who is
Going back to your statement about comparing Komodo X and C400, I do think it's important to note that brands don't want to copy. They want to kind of stand on their own. So, I mean, it's similar to Komodo X, but it's clearly different because they don't want to be a Komodo X. They want to be something different.
No, and I view those as when it comes down to like what's in the pot for both of those cameras, there's slightly different ingredients in what they can do.
Right.
Especially when it comes to frame rates and various other things.
Have you played with any Nikon gear was a question.
Since the acquisition, I've been playing with Nikon before the acquisition and afterwards. I have a Z8 still. I currently don't have any of the Z-mount lenses, but I have other lenses that I specifically use on the Z8. It's a very interesting conversation that it is a very long one.
Yeah, the Z8 it's seriously impressive. It is.
Yeah.
It does some pretty amazing things.
I had the Z9 for about 60 days when it came out. Gosh, 2 years ago, a year ago. What was that?
Yep. Z9 is 3 years ago.
I think the Z9 is a better camera, frankly, but it's
it is, but it's way bigger. But it is definitely designed. If you're going to be shooting on it continuously, then the Z9 is not going to overheat on you, where the Z8 can.
For a lot of you that, I mean, Scott probably knows this about me, but I'm a little bit of a lens nut, but also a camera nut. So I usually have one of everything from somebody. I still have a Sony body. I just picked up something in the middle format category, which is kind of interesting. Not an inexpensive system to get into.
No, no.
Um,
This lens, this
is
is
it the Plano?
no, this is not. I've been trying to get a hold of that one. That one is pretty
So
hard to
small.
get, actually. This is the 85-1.2.
Oh yeah.
And I mean to tell you, you talk about gorgeous glass. Wow.
So it's interesting because I've been able to talk to Nikon or Nikon, depending on where you stand on that.
Nikon, Nikon, depending on which
I
country you're from.
I got KG saying Nikon twice during Cinegear. It was amazing. So
Quick little subvert story there. I saw KG walking by, and I was like, "Hey, KG." He goes, "Oh, hey, Scott. It's good to see you again." I'm like, he remembered me.
yeah.
That was awesome. He didn't quite say it so fluently, but it was awesome.
He's been very accommodating, and I'm glad I finally got to talk to him for a bit of time. I don't mind getting a little into that part of it.
For sure.
But
He's
at an
serious.
event before it was crowded, we had a very good conversation with him and someone else from Nikon. And it was the most time I had with him so far. And I asked some questions, but he also asked me a lot of questions, which I'll tell you right now, I'm just the general interaction I've had with him makes me super excited for what's happening in the future.
Exactly.
Some things are going to take longer. You know, we saw the lens investment thing. People were like, "Oh, they're going to have new lenses this year." No,
not this year. No,
that's going to take some time to build that factory and get.
Yeah, amazingly enough.
Yeah, but that's a heck of an investment.
It's very clear that Nikon is very serious. They're not just like, "Oh, we bought a camera, we'll just totally turn it into to Nikon." No, they're branching to a new area, and they're looking at it as a new area with a brand and capabilities that exist out there, and it's pretty smart. I'm very pleased with that.
I guess to answer Webble's question here, I'm excited to see what these investments that Nikon is making with the new lens factory. Man, I hope they call me if that's going to be a real thing. The way I think it's going to go.
Just I certainly won't be the first couple of calls, but I would love to be called.
Well, I've had a little bit of a history of being involved with a few lens projects. And
you may know a thing or two about optics. Yeah,
there's a few things I think that Nikon's done well with the Z mount. Not necessarily prioritizing the smallest form factor lens, but a prettier lens, which I think is a good way to go. And I think there's a balancing act. Like, I'm not saying make huge lenses all the time, but I don't know. By the time that factory's up and running, will Red have a Z mount camera? Will Red have 2 new camera bodies? Who the heck knows?
It's very possible we could see a new camera body by then, because our roadmap normal typical timeline is 5-6 years on a body style
Yeah, well, I think DSM-C3 as a body style might hold long. It generally, I've been saying most product cycles are 2 to 4 years right now, depending on what camera company, whatever the case. Raptor, what was it? Raptor was 2021.
Yeah, Raptor was like 18 months after Komodo, was it not?
Yeah, it took about 3+ years for Raptor X, and I'm not right. It's interesting. It's more of it's an offering. I don't view that as like, I was surprised that Red kept selling the Komodo when Komodo X came out, but Komodo, the OG body, is very popular.
It still sells. It does really well.
So they just expanded their manufacturing line to support all of that.
I just got this from Megadap. I reached out. They make a Z to EF autofocus adapter.
Yeah,
it works. It works quite well. I was pretty blown away how quickly that actually worked.
Yeah. To answer that question, there's a lot I'm excited about. I have a whole production year before anything on that roadmap even comes back into my mind. But yeah, I'm super excited about the future. Probably more so than most camera companies at the moment, both on the still and motion side.
We got Asaki Studios out there in the Instagrams, Nikon. like our professional services.
Yep.
She says, "Stay tuned for the Z6 III launch on Monday. That one's going to be fun. That one,
Yeah, I heard. Aren't they up north showing that camera right now? Am I wrong?
it's not being
Not much
seen
happens
right
that I
now.
don't hear
Not
about.
publicly seen.
People are pretty good at respecting their NDAs. Actually, that's the
Yeah,
thing that I admired the most.
they're
Canon,
pretty good.
Nikon, Sony have had leaks in the past, sometimes even from internal. Like I remember that one year Sony uploaded to Flickr images off of a R series camera that never came. It came out like a year and a half later. So you
Right.
got to see how in advance how early they were working on that. But
It,
I don't know. It's been pretty
a
nice.
lot of
Most people
specs
can,
have trickled out the last couple of days of the Z6 III, which everything I see, if you apply a filter to it of believability, meshing in, I think it's going to fit in very nicely with the Z8, Z9, and the future.
I think it's interesting because I think the first time Canon mentioned a C400 was 2017 in an interview. So it tells you how long ago that something like that was on the product roadmap.
For sure.
But then they didn't really talk about it for a long time. But I think a lot of people have to understand that a lot of the leak sites are getting controlled leaks to keep the conversation going, to keep the hype building. And I think that's part of what the machine is, because if your particular brand that you use doesn't come out with a system for a long time, it keeps you excited and not frustrated to throw everything against the wall and start all over again.
Being in the dark just leads people to frustration to the point where, I mean, some people literally leave a brand because they've heard nothing for 2 years, and it's silly. No one's stopping working on anything.
Well, I think I don't know. I talk to a lot of people who have invested in systems from other systems. I go up and down on some of my auxiliary systems that are not my primaries because I don't like this, or I'm looking for something more in some other directions. I don't think you put enough into that class.
I mean,
It's all Ice Cube.
No, it's not. It's a ball
I'm
of ice.
kidding.
There's more, and it is cask strength, so we'll be with that. Hey, Graham, I feel like people in the backstages weren't getting much traffic. I mean, literally, the very backstage, no one knew about until day 2. It was,
Yeah.
I didn't even know about it. And
Stage 19 and 24 were packed at some point.
Very much.
It was hard to even get through them. But I did go once where nothing was going on in there.
And it was 15 and 14 were the next. 14 was the one that was stuck behind, and what you would call it, Condor Blue, was stuck back there. I was surprised I haven't seen Condor Blue, and they're in the last stage. I'm like, 15? No.
Yeah. Yeah, they could do that part better if they go next year, just leading people to that area. Also,
having numbers on the ground for boost would have been not. Yes, it would have.
Huge. I've been saying that for years, though. Even at NAB, where they have the things up in the air, some of the booths don't have numbers on them, and you could get into a situation where you're in the right aisle, but the booth you want is that way versus this way.
And I feel like the one company that runs around with the big RC car with the pedestal on there, they're trying to demo it. I think they should be put on an end or a corner somewhere where they can not, because that thing was going in and out of traffic of people like crazy. And
I like the little bit of danger added to that.
Well, I mean, it's their danger because ain't nobody else going to pay for it.
You did see a couple things. I saw one company's sign blow down. I saw a jib arm hit the ground, thankfully with nobody around it. That one would have took somebody out.
Oof. Well, I mean, they were shooting out the whatchamacallit, totally lost names, but yeah, the powered jibs. They were shooting those out like crazy. Definitely needed 3 different map locations, and they needed a plan. I mean, it was really bad. Just talked a little bit about Carlos about the C400.
Yeah.
1 hour wait for parking.
I think the camera's going to sell very well because it's at a price point that's almost unignorable.
Exactly.
You're going to see just the 24 to 105 in that camera sell. Just that little package for $12,000, with tax.
I mean, that's a wedding shooter's dream right there.
Yeah. And I do like the. I'm not big on the BP style batteries, but with the battery plate having the combination of that being hot swappable, that part's smart. Yeah,
Your live streaming room setup
your
is so good. Well,
life
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
is
Is that
good.
Kino?
You never know if it's Christmas or not where you live, but
Well, I mean, I was doing some lint tests with Nisi, and I needed.
I'm messing with you.
Yeah, I know. I really, Rex?
Uber
Get a bad
definitely is the way to go if you don't want to deal with
I
traffic.
was scared to death for Uber people that they were going to get put like someplace else, maybe the moon or something, to come in.
Miss you too, Curtis. Yeah, it was a good show. I mean, I felt like the late night hangs were a little bit tamer and a little bit shorter this year. But people flew out literally for like one day to hang out and stuff too. Just hopping on. Well,
It was a lot of fun. We got shuttled around quite a bit and had a lot of dinners to go to, and it was a lot of fun. Daydreams. Yeah, I saw you were on the looking at the C400 this morning.
The camera can be unlocked, and there is an Ethernet port. So those are good things for virtual people.
Mm-hmm.
What was the vibe around Red since this was the first Cinegear since that? Oh, that's true. It was good.
Yeah, they had a lot of people. They had a booth.
They had all the current cameras that I could see on display, much like they had at NAB. They had Mark Roberts' motion control.
Yep.
With Reds dancing around a Triumph motorcycle with an actress on it. And then they had like a little teeny post station in the back. They had a little tent thing to talk about cameras more intimately. I mean, Red still pretty much has
swag bag was pretty awesome.
The camera of the year still. So I don't think anyone's going to top that this year unless something I don't know.
Yeah, come on, Raptor X is hard to beat. They had little patches, and the swag bag was incredible. I'm stuck on these things now.
Oh yeah, the card bag with the little patches. That was a nice little giveaway thing.
That's like an enabler. Now I'm like, I want to buy all of them.
Well, it's funny. I know a group of filmmakers who are all very pouch oriented people, and in my garage, I have a huge 55-gallon tub of various pouches I have assembled over the years.
I mean, if you don't need some of them, let me know what you got.
Well,
these Timba bags, a
lot of them come with me on my travel shoots to hold like my media readers and just to keep things tidy.
Yeah, I'm getting super organized for a change. It's great.
The vibe was great around Red, and Red had a couple of interesting events along the way, and some great conversations about the future. There's a little bit of rumor plus some expected things that are happening, and I will say I ran into a couple of the engineers at Red once on my way out with his son. That was really cool. He's part of, I believe, the sensor team, and I've only seen him once before in my life. So we had a nice little chat on the way out, and that was great.
Did you get a chance to play with the Steadicam Axis?
I didn't get the new Volt 3. I got to poke around a little bit with. That was cool. Fortunately, I'm not far from there, so I will do a deep dive on it, but I'm also not currently a Steadicam guy, meaning I'm not primarily Steadicam operating. But I have a few friends who are, who own the Volt system, and they have already been starting to have that conversation. Yeah.
I'm trying to get my HDMI to work for a change. Yeah, they also Chris Hare's his partnership with that what do they call it, that goes on the Easy Rig. Did you see that with the
crossbar?
Yeah, well, no, it's got the long surgical tube in it, the really heavy duty tube.
Oh yes, I saw
he was jumping. Yeah, that thing was. It's stupid simple. I told her, I was like, guys, it's stupid simple, and I can't believe no one's come up with it, and I'm so glad that you guys did, because it is truly an amazing device. Yeah. It does really well.
I mean, outside of the truckload of lenses being ushered out this year at Cinegear, camera movement was probably the most visible trend between camera cars, Steadicam type rigs, body mount rigs, all that stuff.
Will it be 17 by 9 once the sensor is unlocked? I don't believe so. I had it.
No, I think it'll still be 36 wide. I don't think that mask extends beyond that.
It's the vertical.
From a manufacturing point of view.
that I believe is
It's fine. It's just it would be nice to have a 6K to 4K downscale. But a lot of people don't think 17 by 9 is. I mean, unless you're doing stuff for cinema application, they're not entirely wrong. So as long as you can get a good UHD width out of it. One of the things I like to point out about the 8K sensors out there, like the Venice 2, R5C, Raptors, they downsample nicely to an RGB 4K image, which is still one of the major advantages of those higher resolution systems. So that's not important to everybody, but some people quite like that aspect of it.
I haven't vanished, but my monitor has. So I'm trying to repatch my monitor so I can see.
It's all right. I had a computer overheat on me during Cinegear, so that was an interesting thing to come home to. Unusual. A fan failed.
Oof.
Yeah. Here I can go through some of the comments. I have internet that allows me to have YouTube open at the same time.
Yeah, your internet is not fair. Although I will say, I'm glad Elon finally got Starlink out here because it definitely made my day. I like this HDMI cable.
I think Starlink is amazing, actually. I've been trying to get my family on it. My parents live up on a mountain, and they don't have a good satellite system currently. And I've offered to even buy them the Starlink, but
it's not expensive. So
my parents are stubborn people.
Well, that's funny how that
Axis
is.
has a payload capacity of up to 20 pounds, supplied with Citycam A30 arm and vest. Yeah, that's plenty for most modern cameras. Most modern cameras are 12 to 16 pounds rigged, and you don't necessarily need to keep power as part of your Steadicam payload. So if you are using a heavier lens, like maybe a Primista or something like that, you can get away with it still. Canon Mark II products. I'm sorry, I'm going ahead there, Scott. But
go ahead. I'm literally there. We go.
Ali says Canon Mark II products are always the way to go. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm mentioning about the VCM lens is Canon definitely implied that there's going to be a series of these, which to me means they're going to have a series of f1.4 primes, and this is the direction they're going with what I would call cinema RF. And I will say the focus pull on the electronic focus on that lens is better than any of the other Canon lenses. So they're doing something good there. And I'm curious to see how this pans out. I think right now, we live in a world where people have to design these hybrid systems that are motion and still centric. There's some people who want dedicated systems still. It's a tricky one in 2024 because motion is on the crazy rise, and people just need more tools for that. So Canon's largely influenced by what these mirrorless cameras have to do on the motion level, as well as their future lens products. Somewhat ironic since I bought a stills-oriented camera like last week. So, but though I'm primarily a director and cinematographer, I do have a still contingent and still will always have that in my life.
Irony is the DP with no picture. That's me.
I can see you.
Yeah, but I can't see me. I can't see you.
Anything. I see what's going on.
Well, sometimes you just like to look at yourself. I don't even know what's going on now. That's totally weird. Okay, well, so much for that.
Is there some way to show it through your StreamYard setup, or?
Yeah, I have to reroute it.
Okay.
Let's see. X's. Simon says, "Hey."
Hey, Simon.
C500 versus C400. I think the C400 is practically better in every way.
Yeah, I mean it's got some interesting codec support. It's definitely going to be cleaner in low light if that's your thing. They're quoting 16 stops of dynamic range, but across those 3 ISOs, I have no idea how that actually works out.
I've heard 16 is the max it will do, but most of the time it's going to be about 15.
There will be a time where I get to test that camera, but my filming schedule keeps me pretty busy around the time that camera actually comes into existence. So,
yeah, I was keeping you in mind. I was like, I need to get Phil on before he goes and disappears into his hibernation schedule.
This is kind of my last really free day. Next week is all pretty busy prep stuff, meetings.
So what do you think? Will Nikon call the RAW files R3D or just RAW?
I think they'll probably call it like NRAW 2 or something, even though it'll probably inherit a lot of the RED technology. I don't see a reason that they need to keep it R3D in a Nikon camera.
I think they should keep it R3D. I think it's a
That's fine
known.
too.
NRAW is pretty infant at this point, and you have a lot of people who know Red Raw. So when you say, "Oh, it's got R3D" in Nikons, they're automatically going to be a little more trusting of it, potentially. And then somebody will complain, "Oh, it's got the same old thing that crashes all computers 22 years ago."
Oh, wow. Well, I think the R3D will be much more compatible
Yes.
system-wide.
Yeah. That Steven, that was Rex. He knocked it over the other day, and I mean, obliterated it. And he literally every time he does it, he just kind of looks at me like, "I'm sorry." I tried to hot glue it; it didn't work. I've been using the Pleta for a few months. Nice 3D pop. Nice. That one is very cool. Definitely interested in that one. Met the new CEO of Nikon Red, dude. He's hella cool. He is. He's. I would say of every Nikon person I've ever seen in management, he's the one for Red. He definitely.
I've met numerous people from Nikon over the years, and the conversations I've had in this year alone, specifically with like 6 people, best conversations I've ever had with Nikon at all.
Yeah, it's funny because like they don't exist in our world because they just didn't exist in our world, but they're going to. They're going to be meaningful.
Well, it seems like they're making just significant investments left and right now. So I think, I'm not going to tell every company in the world to drop a lot of money on a few different directions, but everything I've heard is stuff I'm for. And that's something I took home with me one night from Cinegear. I was like, I'm kind of at a different place where I used to be very involved with a lot of different companies to assist and consult and all sorts of stuff. But I'm definitely going to be much more choosy because my time is a little bit more sparse these days for stuff like that.
I mean, spread what little time you have around and stay neutral and fun.
Yep.
So lots of new lenses that got announced at Cinegear, and then Laowa.
Yeah, that's not a fair comparison. Still,
Arliss looked pretty good. I don't think I would call it an Otis.
Arliss as a motion picture set is more complete. Pure optical quality, there's not much that beats the 55 Otis and the 85 or the 100, but those are not in PL mount.
Right.
There's
3.
A couple lenses that really perform better than those. And there's still. I plead to Zeiss at the show. Ran into Christoph. I mean, he knows. I know from my former Zeiss ambassador days, I have a lot of friends who still use the Otis on a daily basis for still motion work. But no one wants to make new EF mount glass, and there isn't a future of Otis that's being discussed. Although, if you get the 21 and 40 Supreme, you pretty much have the set that was going to happen. So,
I saw somebody, or I think it was Brandon Habuda, was saying that the 35 Milvis mates nicely.
I'm sure, the newer Milvises play up, but the 21 and 40 Supreme designs were very Otis inspired, if you will.
Right. What did you think? Have you got a chance to check out the Laowa new Cine Primes?
I have the Argus 45. I have some of those lenses. I just don't have the Super 35 ones. I use them for stills and all sorts of stuff. But now they're in cinema housings. It's the same glass.
Yeah.
I think they're good. I mean, they're fast if that's what you need.
How do they handle it at T1? Do they just kind of go crazy and nuts?
For people expecting like ultra high quality optics at T1, short of making a $50,000 lens, you have to kind
Or
of
250.
retract
like
your
like those
expectations.
Zeiss, the Zeiss, those cool ones.
You can work with it in low con situations and get a pretty good quality image off of them. Wait, what was the previous question? Oh, this Z6 III.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Z6. Yeah, Fairless Syntax, the C400 is more of a Burano kill. I tend to agree, and I think Sony has a problem with their Burano now because it is overpriced for what you're getting. And I think enough people will look at the C400 versus the Burano and say, why? I could get 3 of them for the same price as one.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I think there's a place for. I know people who own Buranos, and there are people out there who want that camera. That's not a production camera that I would rely on for a lot of the work I do, unfortunately.
I'm going to ask what the take was
I
based
saw
on all
more
the inside
interest in Venice 2 than I saw Burano this year.
Right. C400 records Canada Cinema Raw light internally. What are the difference between C Raw and R3? Oh, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's some differences, but I mean, if you're going to get into the nerdy place of that, get yourself a Komodo X and do a side by side with C400 and shoot what charts you feel are necessary. If you want to do data rate comparisons, there's 3 different. If I remember correctly, C400 has 3 different strengths.
Yes. Yep.
Or encoding ratios.
They're calling it similar to the DSMC3, but I mean they're just. Yeah, I do think that Cinema Raw Light could use a Cinema Raw Medium instead of Cinema Raw Light.
I still think Red is the best raw codec implementation in software, as well as it being actual raw data too.
Another reason why Nikon should embrace that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to crap on lots of manufacturers or anything, but I think from the end user point of view, I think people just want a metadata driven codec to manipulate a few things.
Yeah.
And whether it's pure raw or not might not be important to everybody. Where I am, it is important to me. Like, we always need to have something that does that, because otherwise we're just descending into madness on a semi non-professional level. So
some of us do that every day anyway, so it's not a problem.
Yeah.
C-RAW is not real raw. No, it's definitely
not
real raw.
C-RAW is mostly raw.
Right. It is as raw as, which is funny because everything I understand, they could make it as raw as they'd like.
And they might be revising the codec too. Like there's lots of stuff going on.
To me, Canon Raw Light seems like a underfit, like there's a next version coming for C400.
And the curious one is like B-RAW. I mean, it's clearly stated that that's not actual RAW and partially demosaicked and all sorts of stuff.
Right.
But for the audience of Blackmagic and the typical customer base, having that codec operate the way it does allows people to work on that material with very low-powered hardware. So I think what BMD has done is smart because it's something they have control on developing as well. But again, it's just not everything you can do, and it won't ever get the benefits of some of the things that you can do with RAW.
This is true. Let's see.
And they had a couple of big announcements recently too. So,
Jacob, I did dress up as Santa Claus a couple of times. If you happen to look up Christmas, you'll see I literally just gave away my Santa suit. It was a little hot. I feel like I don't need to dress up anymore. I just am Santa. Happy Friday from Florida. Happy Fridays, Robert.
Yes.
Who makes that bag? That is the city bag, right? So there's 2. It's the CRD bag.
Oh yeah.
The CRD bag, and then this is the Tenba. This is their cable pouch that they have like different sizes, and I've got a lot of these. I love these too.
I travel with a think tank backpack for my laptop and readers and various other things. So my pouches are all about how I can slot those in almost like a Tetris fashion in the length of the bag. So I go off that shape.
And you try to categorize based upon what keeps it in the shape and not bulges.
The Atlas Excalibur was definitely something to look at. It is big, but it does the job if you need that job done.
Yep. We'll have a C400 here to review in 2 weeks. Very cool.
Yep.
I understand there's a handful of them out there, and there will be more here very shortly.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more promotional material. They made one short film that was pretty good. It showed some of the features off pretty well, and they were definitely touting the dynamic range and low light capabilities.
Yeah, it was a little confusing of a, huh?
I think the DP's name was Christina Eng. I think she shot Loki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had made one statement that literally everybody snagged onto, which was the sun was so bright, I couldn't tell if I was in focus or if they were in focus or not, so I just trusted the autofocus. I get it. You needed to demonstrate that the autofocus worked, but that was not the way to say it.
having been involved with some marketing things over the years, you're going to find yourself getting a soundbite that doesn't feel well after you said it once or twice.
And she may not have wanted to say that, or what have you, but the use case needed to be stated somehow.
Yeah.
Super curious how people will modify the Excalibur.
Hard to tell. I think that's a very special use case product, but
indeed.
Yeah. Maintaining the back focus is the important thing about that.
Mantis, yeah, that's the one.
Saw the Mantis.
Cool. Yeah, that was. Phil, what are your thoughts on the new Hydra Pro?
I did look at that. If we're talking about the ARM car package,
the new one with the auto suck 1000s.
Yeah, pretty good. Tilta for their camera arm stuff, they've definitely upped the manufacturing quality quite a bit. So I'm for all that. And I took a hard look at their motorized slider, vertical lifter, which can also be used horizontally. All the stuff was built really well. I mean, I beat on it on the show.
Tilta has gotten a bad rap, and deservedly so, many times over the years. But what they're doing now is not that, and it's kind of amazing. They introduced
they're making hardware that's $150,000 in some other categories, or even $50,000 in other realms, for like $10,000, $30,000, $50,000. So
yeah, they wanted to introduce tripods, so they came out with 6 of them, and they thought, well, we'll start from the very bottom and go up, and everybody's eyeballs were on the big one versus all the little ones.
Well, they struck that weird balancing act between that price thing, and even their most expensive model would be considered relatively inexpensive compared to some systems.
And it looks really nice. I mean, you got to use the one under that without a handle. I'm sure it was.
I've seen better things that are incoming, though. They won't be cheap, but
cheap is.
I can safely say, how do I say this without breaking my NDA? I have used a fluid head. This is shocking considering where I'm at with fluid heads, but I have now used a fluid head that's the best fluid head by a margin that I've ever used.
Yeah, you have my attention.
I will talk about it for a long time because it's not even close to coming to market.
And I know you'll never be able to explain it or talk about it, but
it'll be pretty obvious when it drops. But
when it does, I want you to go, and so I go, yeah, that one.
For me to be excited or even surprised by the performance off of a fluid head in 2024, I did not expect that to happen. So
interesting.
Could the C400 give a glimpse of how future Nikon Red Cine cameras are going to look like? How do I answer that with a political correctness? No, I hope not.
I think Nikon should and will be borrowing stuff from Red, but I think Nikon
build on this. This is good.
Yeah.
Build on that body type. That body type is incredibly advanced and small.
I have a feeling that, Yeah, okay, second part of that. I have a feeling that Nikon's going to maintain the hybrid side
Oh,
and
yeah.
let Red have that. But I have a feeling with Nikon's hardware, that little box behind you is about to get smaller.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some. I mean, I'm hoping they don't get too small and too lightweight because there is a threshold there.
There is.
Like we always need a
Yeah,
system that
too
can take a
light means you got to add
professional
weight.
battery.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Nikon's going to be Mr. Mirrorless Land, and Red's going to be Mr. Production Camera Land. And I'd love for it to pan out that way.
On Instagram, Blackmagic solution for Apple Vision was a surprise. It was. And they're embracing it, and it looks like Canon is trying to lower the threshold to get in there with that new 3.5 millimeter parallax lens.
There's another topic that I need to kind of dance around lately. I think Apple needs to build up Vision Pro from a content creation standpoint. So working with Canon, who already has a full frame stereo lens and now has an entry level one. Hey, Kevin.
Which is way cheaper too.
And now Blackmagic with their rotary ND solution and their B-RAW solution, and they have obviously Resolve. I think what they're doing is promoting it so you can develop content reasonably efficiently for it, because if you shoot Vision Pro stuff or have shot Vision Pro stuff for the full 360 by 180, it's a journey if you're going to do it the best way possible. So this I think is a smart move, and I think from a WWDC perspective, building up that ecosystem, there's a lot of people to get excited about that for coverage of events and things like that.
Sure, and I think it was pretty smart of Blackmagic to kind of they want to show that they're serious, and they've been making really good moves, and that platform that they built with their new Cine line, I mean, it's a great way to get their name out there. They'll be one of a handful of people making content for it.
I have to double check, but I'm 90% sure the sensor in that stereo camera is the same one in the Inspire 3, which is a Sony sensor.
Oh, interesting.
I'd have to double check on that.
Jacob, I hope so, because I already have shirts that say it's red raw or nah. And so that would be really good if that happens, because I was first. Thoughts on the control deck? Do you use the control deck?
The Ignite Digi one, loved it. I'm going to buy one. I want more support than DJI products. I think it's amazing to control all of those systems with it, but I already connected Tom with various people, and I'm going to do more of that. So imagine controlling in a Motimo or a Cine shooter with that controller. Any of that stuff. So
did you see the Noto? The Noto.
Yeah, it's the continued journey of that, and Boyd's getting closer to getting that thing done. That head's going to be amazing.
That is literally everybody I've talked to about it was blown away.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be more of a rental item for most people because the cost is going to be high.
It is, but the quality is really there.
The quality is there. The machine's there. I love his new smart bearing, rotary encoder, whatever he wants to call it. Frictionless encoder, I think, would be better.
I mean, the Noto wheels are, they're hands down phenomenal. Which, by the way, if anybody's looking for a set of Noto wheels, I have a set here that is for sale. I'm selling it for somebody else. But if you are interested in a set, it's the dual, but you can add on the third if I'm not mistaken.
I like those wheels.
They are phenomenal. Look at a recent video I just did on them using them with the Kessler City Shooter.
Yeah, I might put some thoughts on the control deck too, because it's basically like a baby shot over controller in a lot of ways, but it has some additional features that are quite interesting. What kind of camera comes after the C400?
C401.
Another 4 cameras. That's the best answer I'm going to give right now.
What'd you say?
There's another 4 cameras coming out after that one that I know of.
That is correct. There are another 4, but there's only one cinema camera coming out this year. Unless you know differently. You know differently. I know 2 hybrids. I know 1 cinema.
Yeah.
And I know next year is one comes after C400. I know that. Definitely felt a certain amount of sadness with the Zeiss guys firmly said no to the incentivized Otis. Well, you have a
I
story
can't
on that.
I can't
No, you don't.
imagine being in a position there. And they make the best lens I've ever had with that 55 Otis, and they kill off the line. And it's not found in their Supremes, which is supposed to be their Supreme cinema set. I don't know. I'll have to cry about that later. They've gone the direction with the nano primes. I think that's going to fit a certain type of person. But there was a time when Zeiss was at a place of prominence in optical quality. And, right now the motivation is lower end products that usually are pretty high performing. I got a
Right.
bunch of cheap lenses around me right now that perform way above their price point. But it's sad to see. I'm not saying Zeiss is fully exiting. It's just their current strategy is focused elsewhere.
It
I want to
is.
see Zeiss
And
come back and swing hard for mirrorless. I want to see a
I would
mirrorless Otis quality set.
I would
5, 6
love
months.
for Nikon, and Canon to both just come out and say, okay, everybody can make lenses for us now. Because
Canon's
Canon's
taking
doing
the meetings and allowing that. I mean, even Sigma's
they're,
making
they're
a
only
lot
allowing Super 35.
for now.
I know, and I will say, and caveat with Nikon there is that Canon has put out an extraordinary amount of lenses lately, and a lot of them are killer. They're especially for some of the stuff that I do. I love what they're doing, and so they're wanting to get all those out. I get it. Nikon, I would like for them to just go ahead, and they got their factory, so maybe let them get theirs out, and then they open it up. But
Yeah, and I'm hoping just from that press release, it teases some of the directions that Nikon might be going, and that's what's most exciting for me.
right,
Yeah,
I think the Burano is way overpriced. I completely agree.
knock 12K off of it, it'll do much better.
Yep, I say a 12.5 Burano would be great. Now, your thoughts? I don't think Sony can knock the price down more than $5,000 on the Burano without pissing off every single Burano owner. And there's not that many.
Currently, but
I think there'll be a Burano Lite.
Here's what I'll give Sony credit for. They announced their firmware plan. They have a firmware roadmap until May of 2025. So the camera is something that's worth investing in. Yeah, they can't nuke the price. And they can't nuke the price not just for Burano owners, but people who own FX9s. But really, for me, in my mind, the Burano is an FX9 too. So I think that's really how that plays mentally.
It is. It's with the big boy body on it.
I think what will happen that will be more dangerous is after Burano has been out for a minute and the next FX series comes out, which will probably get too uncomfortably close to Burano for probably a lot less money. That's much like what happened with the FX6 versus the FX9.
Right. Yeah. As soon as the FX6 was available, everybody wanted that one because it's way smaller and just as competent.
Yeah.
FX6 cameras for work. Sigma Glass works with the Sony still set.
Yeah.
Love Komodo X. Yep. I think a Burano Lite will probably enter, be it called whatever you want to call it, and I think it will sell like crazy, just like the Canon C400.
I think you'll see a FX8 or an FX62 or something.
I think you're going to see an 8 and a 6.2. And I think
at the end of this year, there will be a game of positional chess when it comes to price point and camera features for those types of cameras.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to talk briefly.
Yeah.
You saw the HBO camera assessment series. You saw it last year, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I got to see it this year, and I'm doing an entire video on it because I was blown away. I thought it was incredible. What is give me your 2-minute?
They discovered pretty much everything I did when I tested all of those systems, and that's honestly the best thing I can say about that is if they came up on results that differed The last time I did a test with camera systems, we just didn't include film because the last time we did that was like to that level was probably 2015.
Right. Well,
And we just didn't need, we already knew that film just, wasn't doing great in low light and stuff like that. So, but what they learned about the Venice 2, the Raptor, the Alexa 35, where things were cleaner, where things had better highlight performance, were pretty much dead on with my results. And some of the things that we were talking about before that the cast came out to the public, like Raptor's shockingly clean in the shadows, for instance.
Yeah, it was surprising.
The only thing they didn't do, though, and now that you've seen one of my dynamic range tests that has been expanded.
Well, yeah, they didn't use Raptor correctly, but
well, not correctly, but if you notice that something's cleaner in the shadows, and it's not retaining enough highlight data compared to another system, if you match the noise levels of that other system, and in my case, I did it at resolution, by the way. As well as at the full 8K sensor, just to know that answer too. A lot of people, and they were saying it in the cast tests, like maybe you do actually rate Raptor at 2,000, 2,500.
Right, or 3,200.
So
yeah, I mean, well, what I think was important to note is they were literally showing that series using film, because there's still a lot of people that base everything on film, and so they didn't want to, like, okay, this is the best case for this is the best case for this is the best case for this. They wanted to do it fairly, and I can't fault them for the way that they did it.
Well, film has to be our gold standard reference point.
It does, and it's pretty. It's really pretty. And what's his name? Guy who hasn't accepted my friend request, Mullen. He commented. He commented that they were using LED lights, which film with tungsten lights definitely is a different quality, and I agree with that.
Well, I think the hard one, especially for people who haven't worked a lot with motion picture film, is there's levels of minutia where you have several different stocks that have different sensitivities, which also results into different resolutions, by the way. Then you have the color related things about tungsten versus daylight and how you want to work with it. And then interesting things like push processing and even pull processing, which you typically wouldn't do over a stop. But people will push some films to 3 stops even, which is a little bit intense at 3, just to get a different look out of it and get some different properties out of it.
Do you know the main guy that did the assessment series? I forget his name. The guy with the long beard. Do you know him personally?
I don't know his name offhand, but him and what's his face have been at it for a long time.
I want to see about getting him on here, because I would love to hear his thoughts on the whole thing, because he likes to be, he's a talker, so he's.
I like that they don't release it to the web, because they have to show it in sort of a high quality setting. And one of the things that's happening right now on streaming services that you can publish to reasonably well is the re-encoding and things like that.
Yep.
So on a more professional level, any of us who are doing work that gets finished out to, say, a streaming service, you're getting encoded from a master. But when we upload to YouTube, we have to encode, and then it gets re-encoded. Same thing for pretty much every other streaming thing.
It gets destroyed.
Sometimes that goes well, but we've seen the quality dip down. Rightfully so, because there's a lot more people uploading motion content to, streaming platforms. But I don't know. We need to definitely find a high quality solution. Like, I would pay X amount of dollars per month to have a very high quality YouTube stream at this point.
Absolutely.
To get back to where we were.
Well, not just a high quality, but a forced high quality, meaning that I can cash it out if I have a slow internet connection, which, I mean, Starlink more than capable of doing it. What's the fiber ring in LA that they have for the movies? The Bel Air Net?
That goes from Atlanta to here, or the
No. The where you can watch if you're it's for big motion picture people, producers and such, where they can actually watch theater releases in their own theater. It's called Bel Air Net or something.
My current internet connection can handle 3 times the maximum DCP spec for 4K.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yours is silly, and it really makes me sad. Stop talking about it.
No, I think there is something, but yeah, they do digital delivery now to theaters.
Right.
And I
And
think
there's
they're doing
one
premium
for
boxes. Yeah.
basically for celebrities and such who can't actually go to a theater to watch a movie because it would just be detrimental to anybody that's going there. There's a way to watch it, and I agree with you. I wish I could have a copy of the HBO Camera Assessment Series, but I completely support why they don't release it.
Yeah,
And
no, I'm fine with it. In my case, I'm fortunate to have samples off all those cameras, but
I'm going to
it's
do a good.
I'll say a more spicy take. The cameras are pretty good right now, and it comes down to value to performance ratio. Really, when you think about it, I'm on a new camera system this year with Raptor X, and that camera has technology in it that I haven't been able to use before. And even the stuff I've been using with like even the extended highlight stuff is changing the way I shoot scenes. Which I don't know if every DP wants to be comfortable with that or not, but it's pretty spectacular if you know how to use it.
So I'm going to release probably Tuesday my review of the camera assessment series. And it's literally just going to be me kind of explaining and talking about it as best I
Yeah.
can. But honestly, if any of you have the option to go see this series, and it's only in certain certified theaters at certain times, see
Yeah.
it because it's well worth it, and it's shocking, and it's also not shocking in the same way. And the one thing
I
I
think
will say
oh, go ahead. You got it.
that the top three cameras, which are the Venice 2, the Raptor, and now the Raptor X, and the Alexa 35, if you believe one of those cameras is vastly superior than the other, you're simply biased. That's the truth. And that's okay. Everyone can be biased. Each one of them has little streaks here and there. Now, V-Raptor X, I mean, it is in a cut by itself, but they didn't test that. But those top three cameras performed beyond belief. And just a brief comment, which was hilarious. I don't know how about your viewing. They did a test, a nighttime full moon only test, where a boat's in the water and such. And they had the 6 cameras, which was Alexa Mini, the Blackmagic 12K, Film 5219, Alexa 35, Venice 2, and V-Raptor. The top 3 did really well. When film came on, the audience busted out in laughter. It was because there was no image. It was basically kind of a dark scene with 3 little lights. That's all you saw. Where everybody else was seeing both.
So weak in the toe and the knee that's
Yeah.
stuff we know from a long time. It's even how early digital was. You had to really light for your shadows to kind of make that make sense.
Well, which is why they were literally blowing out 20Ks out there to get that fake moonlight.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, what a wonderful time we live in when your top 3 cameras can do it with moonlight and a little bit of augmented lighting just to put a little pop on your characters. But wow, it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, the cliff notes from my side is the Venice 2 is the highest resolving production camera you can buy that's commercially
very
available.
sharp, very sharp.
Only a little bit higher resolution than Raptor 8K.
But it shows it. It shows it. That
It does show it. Well, the reason why you're seeing the difference, and especially if you're finishing 8K for 8K or 4K for 4K, is the different sensor technologies as a whole. But the difference is not huge. It's just there. And I have ways to counteract that, which is also more interesting. But
you get an extra K of resolution, which is not insignificant.
You get an extra 2,000 pixels.
It's
1,000
sizable.
Something
but
like
you also have some potential sharpening that is happening in camera, or just the pixel pitch alone making it look that sharp. I'm not saying that negatively. Red is not sharpening anything.
Wow.
It's raw. Yeah.
That's a great question right there, and I would say you're going to see that monitor very quickly adopted to a lot of places. That is good for field use as well as color grading use. The Small HD Quantum 32.
Have you checked out the Hollyland Pyro 7?
I did not check out the Hollywood Pyro 7.
Nor did I. I will now go check it out. Petapixel used the tag 4K 120 among the things for the potential. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to break any sort of secret.
He can't break NDAs. I can tell you what I've heard. I have heard 4K 120. I've heard 12-bit in RAW at 6K, and it's a very nice sensor, and it's going to fit in very nicely. That's what I've heard, and awesome. I don't have an NDA.
Can you give me 1 second, Scott? There's a crazy
Absolutely.
noise going on in my backyard I want to look at. It could be squirrels dying.
It could be squirrels. All right, good luck. We're all counting on you. Okay, so let's see. Do I buy the Sattler Flowtech or wait for something that's coming out we can't talk about? So I don't know what Phil was talking about, what he saw, but I also know what makes Phil smile. So my guess is it's going to be pretty fantastic, but my guess is it's also going to be very, very pricey. The Sattler Flowtech is very nice. I cannot fault. And I now own an O'Connor. I literally, it's one of those moments where like you feel like you're walking on water. You've hit that point where you've got the holy grail of something. I flat out love my O'Connor, and Sattler makes some that are really close, and there's a couple other brands that make them that are really close. And boy, when you hit that level, wow. So the Sattler Flowtech is very nice, very nice. Hey, Luca. Rex says hi, but he's being a jerk. He's behind me here. Hold on, let me move the camera. He keeps moving because he knows you're going to be on here. Let's see if we can boop, boop, charge the battery. Well, all right then. I guess we won't be showing him. It's plugged in. I got to go get. I got to get some new power distribution around here. V-mount on the C400 looks ridiculous. I agree, Ollie. I think that was kind of an oversight. Okay, hey, Phil. Wow, it just pops right back on. Let's see. I like the Raptor size. Nikon can just feng shui it. Yep. I did get confirmation about an hour ago the internal ND on the C400 is fully sealed. It is, but it's two stop steps.
2 stop steps, and 2 of those
Mechanical.
stops are stacked. It's 2, 4, 6 stacked.
One. Okay.
8 and 10. One of those are stacked. I don't remember how it lays out. 4 and 6. Yeah.
I personally don't have a problem with stacking if they're really tight. Well, Phil does. But I also don't mind 2-stop increments because I tend to...
Don't have a problem with stacking until there's a problem with stacking.
Fair enough. By the way, if y'all saw Austin Burke, he was standing on a Apple box. This is the Apple box he was standing on. I just wanted to show for size reference for Austin.
Film Tools did indeed have the largest Apple box ever made at the show, and everyone wanted to climb on top.
Also, it was a bit of a shock to me. If you saw the Film Tools short that they posted, What You Missed at Cinegear, where he had people sign the little mini Apple box, I was the first signature. You can't tell, but if you look really closely at my hand, you can see the first signature there.
Cool. I think our lists are great for the price. I think there's going to be some other interesting options in that category relatively soon.
Interesting.
Without breaking any stuff. But it's nice to see more T14, like actual T14. Hopefully they do actually hit that. It's not so much the sharp. They have a nice resolving power. There is CA. As you get out to the out of the field and into the corners and stuff, I think that's where you're going to see it separate itself from, say, some of the higher quality, faster primes. So there's no free lunch, but with
Correct.
the price, they're $10,000 for a production set of glass. So you can pick up that set and start shooting tomorrow, and the next thing that competes currently is notably more expensive.
Jacob says, trademark it or copyright it, whatever the saying is, and insult to Nikon. I will not do that because it literally is their trademarks already. So it's raw or nah. But Nikon, I would love to make the shirt if you want to, let me do it. Because if y'all name it nah and keep red raw for red, that shirt is going to be awesome. Are you canceling your Creative Cloud subscription? Oh, with the
I'm not.
no, I'm not either.
Um, there's a few things. I've had a really long relationship with Adobe since I was a teenager. I've been involved with things on the development side with Adobe even, and have gotten them to change and add features to software over a great deal of time. It took me a decade to get them to put tetrahedral LUT into interpolation into Premiere, for instance, which really should have been done a long time ago. So I took a different path. When I saw the TOS and I read it, especially the 4.2 line that everyone's concerned with, I read the entire document and I see what they're motioning at. So I chose the path to engage with Adobe directly because I have that power or capability. And immediately they said there were meetings about it. And then like a day or two later, they released that press release saying that they're going to revise that. A lot of people don't know a great deal of what's transpired with Adobe, how they trained Firefly on some stuff that they had access to through the terminology of the TOS on the stock side. That's very interesting in itself. But the concern really is for people who create original works in all of their software moving forward. And they don't want to have a watchful eye. And meanwhile, things like Photoshop needs to be aware of you, say, scanning a $100 bill because they don't want you to make counterfeit money.
Yeah, they already are. It's rather interesting. Like short story time, which leads to long story time. Back in the 80s, my father tells the story of Xerox coming out to their office and showing off the latest Xerox copier, and it was full color. And they said, "Look at this great feature that says, you scan $100 bill, and it comes up and it puts a do not distribute or whatever on there, and we can even report it to the Secret Service." And my father was like, "If you have the technology to notice that it's there, why not just don't scan it?" Which now everybody does. You can't.
Well,
you can't
if I
scan
had to predict the future, what's today's date? The 14th. They said they were revising the text by the 18th, I think. I think the new terms of service will have much more detailed specifications on what they are doing, which hopefully will regain the trust of creators. I know some people who are so butthurt about Adobe with subscriptions and stuff over the years that they're not going to go back. That's all valid in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of stacking subscriptions on subscriptions these days.
I definitely dislike that.
For me to pay for my subscriptions from my company, I could own 2 other properties. I always joke about it. Like, it's just crazy, the software I'm dealing with just to, make things now. And I'm actually committed. I've committed to downsizing some of that stuff just because I can just re-sign up if a project needs a certain software package. I'm actually even more hurt by people I bought perpetual licenses with who have now that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I don't
mind mentioning it on this stream, but like Keyshot has been a part of my workflow for a long time. I'm not okay with that. What they
there's been several
users is pretty rough. So,
and there's been several companies that were never subscription based that got purchased by subscription companies. I'm two-sided on this in that I don't fault a business for wanting to be a business and wanting to make money and to have an exit strategy. That's totally fine. I just don't like that we're running out of options and people aren't interested in doing that. Going to your Adobe statement, as much as I bitch and piss and moan about Adobe, I've never known them to be devious. So, like you said, when you confronted them and they come out and they're like, no, that's not what we meant. That's literally probably they didn't mean it, and they just didn't realize.
They have
what
a new. Adobe's had so much turnover between PR and legal companies recently that there's probably when these companies get too big, a lot of things happen with maybe the best intentions, but possibly in the worst ways. It's been my experience at multiple large companies I've done work with.
Nature of the beast.
And even to the point of some of these software companies that have software that costs thousands of dollars for a perpetual license, who have now gone to fairly expensive subscriptions. You need to be offering a discount to keep your loyal customers who paid
Right.
that perpetual license.
Yeah, because those are the people that are continuing to bring people in, whether you think it's not or not. Because other people that are coming on now, they're sticking their finger in the air and listening to the wind. And
Yeah.
yeah, Jacob getting a 1218. Wow, that is a big crane, dude. I'm telling you. But just for those of you, Kessler was actually at Cinegear with
I took a selfie to send you. I didn't do it. I'm going to do it right now.
Oh, with Mutiny, which was great. I got to help out in the booth a little bit. They actually let me go run around, which very, very cool of them. Both of them, Mutiny and Kessler. But I do know if you call Kessler, you can't do it online because there's no possible way to do it unless you do a video. But if you call Kessler and want to buy a cine shooter and you sing a little bit of the Kessler Roll song, they will give you a good discount. A good discount.
Remind me to never check my phone when I'm on stream with you ever again.
What'd you just check?
I emailed a company that we have not mentioned today about something, and I just found out the person I've been talking to is no longer there.
That's not good. Oof,
sad face.
Oof. Let's see here. Want Atlas to make their version of the 18 Orion, but have a rainbow. Oh my God! The rainbow flare.
Well, you could probably kind of almost imbue that yourself if you put a certain thing in front of that lens.
Well, put some colored light onto the side. You can probably eject it.
Yeah.
Dirk says good evening.
Hey, Dirk.
Blow through these. Gregory.
I saw Gregory briefly at Cinegear. I was getting tugged around in 5 different directions.
He was everywhere showing off his new version of his...
I did eventually get to look at it, but even like when I ran into you, Scott, I think I ran into you just a couple times. It was a madhouse. I haven't seen Eric Kessler in 2.5 years. I literally saw him for 3 minutes. That is the most amount of time I got to see. It was that one of those shows. It has actually been years.
I did get a hug though, so we're good there. Did make a city here, but I'm going to Warner Brothers for prop returns in about 30 minutes. Well, make sure you have your itemized list because Gregory Carradine, welcome home. Start packing from Munich. Yeah, there you go. Glad you made it back to safe, Gregory. Great getting to spend time with you. Gregory he's a thinker. I like him. I like that he's always he's solving problems. He really is, and that you got to love that.
DJI Focus Pro is doing amazing things. I agree with Philippe there. There's a lot of people who are relying on that now, and I don't have them here, but I do have these. I'm waiting on my Nissies to arrive. At some point.
The Nisi review from here will be out this coming week. It's all done. Just finishing the edit.
The new primes?
No, the new primes are coming to me ASAP, which was great. I was thoroughly impressed with the Nisi primes. Way more than I thought. And I put them on Super 35 V Raptor, and I put them on the Z8 Nikon full frame. And by golly, other than the vignetting on full frame, which they have some vignetting, but they are sharp as hell.
No, I really like the Athenas, and they have some other projects in the works that I'm pretty excited about. They even showed at NAB a different coating that they're doing on the Athenas that's pretty nice. Those and this bad boy coming out, the 65 Irix.
Irix, yes.
Pretty much the most exciting class I've seen. That's
are we allowed to talk about
now.
the Nisi stuff? I'm not under NDA, oddly enough, but I was told everything. So I try to friend-DA most everything. If they don't say anything, though, I'm like, yeah.
I'll say they have more interesting lenses coming. That's the best thing.
They do have some very cool stuff coming. I'll say that. I just got your picture, Phil. That's awesome. My short story. My literal 2 minutes that I got to spend with Eric. He was walking across a crosswalk, catching his Uber. And so I ran up behind him and did the only thing that I could do to Eric, and I grabbed his butt.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
When she turned around, I was like, ah!
Yeah.
So that's all I got. It was like, I got a little sexual harassment and then and a hug, and That was it. That was all I got. Wait, I'm sorry, I missed the question. I recently used DJI Focus with the Komodo X, DJI RS4, and the EC Primes, and my mind was blown away. Focus spot on the Komodo X, brilliant. Spot on,
Yeah.
nice.
The Athenas are very small too. It's just very
So you
impressive.
said on the Athenas, you said the weakest lens of the 5 was which one?
I wouldn't say weakest. It's just the
Okay,
18. The 18 is so needed between that jump to the 14, and like the 14 is such a specialty lens, even on Super 35, in my opinion. But now that the 18's there, like the 14 will still come out with me when I shoot with them, but like the 18 through 135 is the set that I've really been after. And there's a couple of
I completely agree.
in there.
The 14 is spectacular, but the fact that you can't put ND on it is a pain.
Yeah.
And the 18 fixes that. So the set to have is the 18 above, and then add the 14 if you need it.
Yeah. I got a couple other oddities in front of me because I knew it was coming on stream, but there's the Laowa 10. Oh, gosh.
The Laowa 10 is hilarious on full frame.
It does not want to focus.
You've chosen poorly.
Hello?
You've chosen poorly. Oh, wait.
Now I'm just blurred.
There you are. Hey. I think you're too close.
Maybe. I thought this lens goes pretty
wow,
close. It's 12 inches. Something about this
I
lens
saw
go.
that 10 millimeter on full frame, and I couldn't stop laughing. It feels so unnatural.
I assure you, this is really here.
Oh, it's so blurry.
I'll put it next to my head so people can see it. This is amazing. It's the widest thing that covers V-Raptor at the moment.
I'm laughing on my Nisi Athena review when I put the 14. Oh, nice. When I put the 14 on the Z8 in full frame, I was literally like 13 inches away from the giant Duclos lens focus chart. And it was so bad that it was casting shadows upon itself from my lighting. And there was nothing I could do about it.
Yeah, that's going to happen for sure.
And I just, disclaimers on there. You guys, what resolution do you expect will be the next Nikon Red camera, and what more do you expect? Interesting. What are your thoughts on that, Phil?
I mean, I know what the next Nikon camera is. The next Red camera? I don't know. I think Red's really put their their stake in the sand with 6K and 8K. I don't mind saying there's a lot of things I want Red cameras to do, but I'm not going to talk publicly about what I think they should do the most. Mainly because it's going to set a direction that some people might explore, but I have some strong feelings. I've been doing tons of R&D on even things like what I think the ideal sensor size is, which is quite shocking when it comes down to it. I've done experiments to kind of back that data to see if I'm close to something. I've been on a warpath towards a direction, and
interesting.
I'm curious if Red and Nikon want to go that way. But as I've been saying now for years, the way these cameras, let's just take a full frame sensor, like something everyone knows, right? We have 20-something megapixels, 30-something megapixels, 45 megapixels, 61 megapixels, so on and so forth. Same format size. And if you think about that and just swap out 135 film, if you have 500T, 250D, 200T, 50D, do people shoot with 100? Yeah, maybe E100, whatever. You have these different resolutions, but they're still the same format size. And some of these are better in low light. Some of these don't resolve very high. Right now, digital out-resolves and is better in low light than film is. But the mindset of digital has expanded with some of that filmism, some of those film mindsets where, like, if you choose to shoot 50D, and if you're on the still side, you can get even higher resolving film, which is quite spooky when you see like a really high resolving film format. It's very low speed. It's a pain to shoot.
That's and it's not suitable for video or for film. I mean, for motion picture.
It would cost you an arm and a leg, and it would be very troublesome to do.
Equipment List on Instagram asks how the new iPad Pro with OLED screen is.
Pretty good.
Is anybody interested in a review on it? I mean, I've got right here. It arrived, and it's
Interesting
pretty.
strategy with the dual OLED. I kind of like
It
that.
is interesting strategy, but it solves the problem. It
Yep.
it gives you that brightness that you need. YouTube subscribers have access to higher bitrate. Is it worth subscription? The higher bitrate is nice, but on top of that, the blowing away the ads. You can't get me to watch an ad today. If you offer a service that I can't get rid of the ads, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah, I do not. Gosh, I've been paying that fee for a long time through YouTube.
I have two since Red,
How can a
YouTube
company
Red.
come up with such a good price for such quality? I mean, everybody says. Well, you have to be aware of the things that the R lists are not doing, and much like DZO's other lenses, there are lenses with better mechanics, which are important to people. There are lenses with more accurate scales. There's lenses with better CA performance. The ecosystem of where everything is coming from for a DZO lens to get manufactured is a fraction of the shipping that needs to transpire than, say, the real lenses that are a mystery to me is with the Swiss, Japan, South Korea, China relationship with IRIX. Those lenses are still very inexpensive and very good quality. And all of these companies have different profit margins and what it costs for import taxes and things like that. So it's, that's a great question. The reason why I have some lenses, maybe Scott's the same, maybe not. There are lenses that have a great value proposition, but I don't buy lenses necessarily based off of how much value they are. I buy lenses based off of the images they create. So I have some very expensive lenses that I very much like, but the reasons I bought them had very little to do with the price, but everything to do with the image quality or image character and image quality, the combined thing.
I'm very much like you with a smaller focus on how many lenses I can get.
I make it make sense for me. You know, my Premista purchase was a really good example of lenses I was renting. Not a small ticket item, but I knew I had years of filming to go with those lenses. And I decided to pull the trigger. And frankly, there hasn't been anything superior on the zoom side for what I do. And there could be. I'd like to see them. Oh, boy. Recent YouTube reviews drama. Oh, man. You know, I don't have a lot of relationships with a lot of those guys. But, man, if we got into a bar situation, I could chew some fat with them.
We need to find that day and make that happen there, Phil. We need a good bar situation where we're not trying to get to some other place.
I've been offered significant money for exclusivity and all sorts of stuff over the years to be something. And it's mysterious because I even became official brand ambassadors to multiple companies at the same time who were competing with each other. Mainly due to the fact that I had such a wide knowledge base and people did respect the open opinion, it's even more fun for me because my relationship with Red and the Red community, people knew me from that world, but I was also one of the first person to say, hey, let's fix this on this low pass filter, or hey, let's do this, or I would email Red direct. Like, it's such a fun thing. Looking back and on all that, and even my former interactions with Canon, this is why the Nikon stuff's so exciting. I've had virtually no interactions in assistance levels with anyone at Nikon to date, even though way back when our HDR cams were using N90 bodies, the film cameras. So
You have to look at the person on YouTube as a whole and understand who they are, how they act, and take everything with a grain of salt, because sometimes you could tell that people are somewhat influenced by what they're reviewing, or they have money to do it. I don't think there's probably a handful of people that are truly deceptive. But I think most of them, for the part, are just they're slightly biased by the fact that they're getting to do something with something that they didn't get to do before.
Yeah.
I will say, I think I've reached a point now. I guess it's step one, because probably other people are on like step 5 and 6, where companies have asked me, like you were saying, hey, what will it take for me to do this, or for you to not look over here but look over here? And my answer is simple: I can't do that. So hopefully, we all have biases.
That path, and like I'm not against anyone making money, but I think the question mark about longevity in the industry, and wherever you are, like there's people who do just rumor site recaps and they have channels and they're making tons of money, and they're just talking on screen, talking bullet points of some rumor. And I always love it because I'm usually under NDA and I'm like, oh, they're getting close, they're getting closer, or something like that. Um, like leading up to the C400 thing, it was actually hilarious the last couple months as they were like, oh, what's this? And oh, they teased the R1. And I was just like, this is great.
Hey, Zach,
And
my
then
favorite
Canon
was
didn't show two things I thought they were going to show around this announcement too, which I was like, oh, okay.
my favorite quote recently was when a rep from a company said, and when a month and a half ago you flat out just state the name of this product without being under NDA and knowing everything about it, just blew my mind. And I was like, I get around. I just
Well, there's definitely, and that's why I've kind of been eyeballing the companies this year. Is they've been much tighter lipped about who they leak what to, or even show stuff under NDA. Because some people
Yep.
don't. I always like citing Jared.
No respect.
I've known
Yeah.
Jared for so long. He had a certain point that like NDAs don't matter, and I told him to his face, I was like, if you ever catch me breaking something like that, you can punch me in the head. Like I've never done it.
It's funny with Jared though, because and he will be on the live stream soon, by the way. But he will break certain things, but there are some things he will never ever break. Break is probably the wrong
Jared
term.
likes to tease, and he also likes to test people, which Jim
Yes.
also likes to do. Jim
Yep.
also is a tester of individuals, and if you can gain their trust through those tests, they'll respect that. And it's
exactly.
not just them. I've had that experience with other clients as well along the way. And that's the interesting thing. Like a lot of the reviewers don't necessarily have the widest perspective for different market tiers. There's cameras that you and I will never use for professional work, but they will sell in hundreds, thousands, whatever, for a certain market that doesn't necessarily fit our needs. So you have to have that perspective about what that is. Like we were finding out just recently, like Kodak's doing really well in Japan, and all like and even out
I
here.
saw that with the little tiny camera.
Joe from Film Tools told me that the power shots were selling like hotcakes this year.
Yeah, in
And
Japan,
I was like, I haven't touched one of those in ages.
yeah, I had to look it up to see, oh, was this some new power shot I hadn't seen? I was like, no, it's not some new power shot. It's what they want. They want something simple and small.
We do need to catch up. I missed the
Yep.
the trade show run-ins with the tall people.
Oh, Scott waiting on Z8 reviews. It's coming. It's coming, King. I'm going on a wildlife trip end of next week for a little over a week. After that, I will conclude my Z8, and I will start pumping out all the videos in the Z8 because there's so much to talk about with it. It's quite.
When I had the Z9 and the Z8, there was about 2 weeks of overlap. And I'm wondering, since there's been so many firmware updates since, I'm curious if the Z8, I need to go back and look at my test footage. The only thing I noticed was the shadow coloration on the Z9 was better than the Z8. And otherwise, more or less interchangeable, like in terms of just IQ.
I don't have recent knowledge with the Z9. I had it 18 months ago.
Okay.
From what I remember from it and this, I think it looks pretty much interchangeable.
Yeah.
To Talked to Jason Cross about the discount he'd give me on a crane and at least 6 rail sets. Stoked AF. Oh, he's glad he's stoked with autofocus. Like, you should sing that song and see what happens. Will there be an article on PHFX on in-raw workflow? There'll be on my channel soon.
I don't know. There's been a lot of people trying to get me to do more educational stuff, and I have some ideas. I'm kind of at the mercy of my production schedule year out, and I still have a couple projects that I need to finish before I leave town. So, film color.
What is that? What is this film color? Tell me about this. What is this?
The manual for film color is the problem, is because I'm providing like a very thorough manual, so everyone. It's like
but for someone who doesn't know what film color is, what is it, and where can I find it? What?
Filmcolor.com. I've been very fortunate to get early on into the Red IP2 workflow, so much so that in all DSM-C3 cameras, some of the LUTs that ship in the camera are mine, which was a tremendous honor. When Jared asked me to do that, it was huge, and it took a long time to get a very limited selection in the camera that everyone was happy with. It was quite an ordeal. But film color has expanded into, I don't know, some people have called it an alternative to ACES, but we were even doing the ACES workflow before ACES existed with linear and VFX land, so it's not shocking.
Film color is calling them LUTs is kind of silly. They are LUTs, but it is a collection of custom designed looks from Phil based upon real items in life, real film stocks, real everything.
Yeah, I think it started off. If you go way back to Film Color 1, which no one should remember at this point, which was a much smaller selection, it started off as looks that you could quickly deploy. And then Film Color 2 and 3, I expanded those to output transforms, grading tools. Some people I know literally just use some of my tone transforms so they can see a flatter image while they're filming while still capturing with their medium soft or whatever in camera. You know, I love hearing how people have been using them. People still send me like commercials and stuff that they graded with it. I've seen some stuff on Netflix pop up. They purely used film color as a base, which is really cool. I don't know. I think it's just grown into this thing. I've definitely simplified things with this upcoming release while adding what I think is more of the goodness. And some people, I will say this, people ask why I haven't made OFX plugins or something, and I might. But with the LUTs, you can put the LUTs in a monitor. You can put the LUTs in a camera. They were designed for red wide gamut, log 3G10. And I have all of the transforms from various other cameras to get that in there that I've, Phil's History of Color. Who's that from?
It's literally from our old... I know I have a ticker somewhere.
For those that don't know, I was an OG colorist in this industry before digital colorist was a credit. Made some grading software, made our pipeline at my old studio, and color stayed with me, thankfully, throughout my filmmaking career. So when I moved on to basically running a small production company, some of my projects just go entirely through me, sometimes even just with VFX as well, if it's small enough for me to handle, and sometimes to farm out to a small team. But I don't know, I'm big on workflow. Part of my studio experience for the majority of my career has been pipeline and workflow setup. So all this has just been a big part of my life. And I love that people enjoy it. So
I will say that I've used film color for, I guess, version 2 and version 3, and I've used them periodically here and there. But I found a new pipeline, a new workflow in Resolve that just brought these things out. And I was probably doing something wrong to begin with, but now it's like, oh, I really like this one now, and I really like this one now. And it's like, it's a nice collection of emotions for your looks.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Let's see here. Let's go. Lots of things here. Gotta keep zooming here. I talked to Jason Krause about that. Okay, at Cinegear, and then will there be an article? Yep, we saw that. Okay, either of you worried about the momentum DJI ban is picking up in DC?
That's an interesting topic. It's hard to say what's going to happen there. There are valid concerns, but also invalid concerns, and I think we need to see what happens as it escalates. DJI publicly posting about it, like trying to gain customer support, is nice, but what they really need to do is to get a voice, a legal voice that can explain what's going on.
Yeah, here's what I've noticed. DJI has some lobbyists, not very many, and they don't spend very much money. The company championing this. Wow, the scotch is really good. This is Glenn. It's it's very delicious. The company's championing the ban has put in 3 times as much lobbying money to Congress. Which, don't get me started on this crap, but that's a problem. There's no real solution. There's no real. So if you ban DJI, you ban it all. There's nothing that can pick up right now. And the free market will handle. That kind of won't.
No, DJI makes the most advanced commercial drones. And certainly in the mass market. And they have them at different tiers. You can make an argument that Autel is probably in space there, but not really.
It's more of a generic statement more than anything. I think if something happens, it will not be this is my opinion. It will not be today, starting June 14th, no DJI drone will ever work. I don't think it's going to be that. I think it'll be DJI will not be able to sell new products in the camera space or drone space until something happens. So your drone will still work.
I was doing it a while ago. We had to build our own drones.
I mean, it was a thing. And there are many that want that to come back.
No.
I think DJI is going to figure out how to comply or lobby. Maybe just spend $1.5 million is literally all the amount of money they'll spend.
A specialized technologist come in and say, hey, this is what this is doing.
I mean, they've already given the government full ability to shut down drones. They could do it now.
Oh, nice, Gregory.
Flight start shipping mid-July. I'm doing my best.
I saw a couple gimbals with the lens cuff at the
Gregory's
show.
out there just pushing it forward. Forward. Jared is the strategic NDA breaker. Very strategic. Know of any great matte box filter? I want to drop in black rainbow filter.
There are things that can create a rainbow look.
Oil.
I don't know if I can say that here because I might make that product, but
drop some oil on a filter and you.
Yeah, don't do that. I got somebody I let use one of my Tokinas, my Tokina 180, and they got oil on the front of the lens somehow. And some of my friends on a Zoom call got to see me clean this thing for the course of like an hour, trying to get the oil off. It was awful.
The unknown oopsies are a real problem in the world. I know a friend with a volume stage that had a large company there and did an unscheduled effects demonstration that destroyed many panels on his volume wall because they didn't bother to let anybody know what was going to happen, and whoops. Yeah. I ran Kessler and sang Kessler roll once. They hung up. That was Kostler. You gotta call the right Kessler. See, Ali. No, he's joking, of course, because Jason would laugh his ass off if you start singing it. He'll do whatever it takes to get you whatever you want to buy. Must have been out of tune. Oh, that's true, Ali. Yep. My angelic voice. Love film call. There you go. Curtis loves it. Yep. Remember to buy Phil a coffee or 10. Yeah, somebody did buy you 10 coffees the other day. That was kind of impressive.
Yeah, the PHFX tool stuff, which are the little web tools to compare formats and all that stuff. I've been getting a lot of love on that this year. I just did some really nerdy R&D on creating a depth of field calculation based off of photo site size that I was wrangled into by SMPTE, AMPUS, and the ASC, which I just put everything down I was doing in May, except for a couple small shoots. But man, I took a break from that. Now I have all these new PHFX tools ideas that I want to like crank out real fast. We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see what I can execute in the next month. So
my goal is to go to LA one day when it's not some event, so I could just take Phil out for some drinks and dinner, and we could just have a good time without a time being stated in there.
yeah, at the end of this production year, I'm probably going to take a little bit of time off. Not too much, but like I want to think about
might be deserved. And by time off, what you mean is you'll just dedicate all your time to some personal projects.
No, I just want to like I'll probably go sit on a nearby island and chill out.
Two of those. Do you know any illustrators that use film tools for just running filters over the designs, illustrations? I'd buy just for that.
Not film color in particular, but I have made LUTs for video game looks, which is very interesting because that is a thing that can happen. And strangely, that typically goes into some sort of refined lighting engine. So like if you go into Unreal, you get one result typically, and then you want to stylize it in, I'm just using Unreal, but any game engine. And then you can kind of change your lighting engine to kind of look closer to a LUT. I've done a lot of weird LUT stuff over the years. I've done LUTs for computer monitors, TVs, like just strange things. I've loved the challenge of it all because I really dive in. But I'm welcoming anything pertaining to visual storytelling. And
Felipe, on your statement on RF lenses on Komodo, I hear you and I feel it. Komodo is a 4+ year old body, and so it's they've done a ton with it, and it has limited processing inside. It has limited room for firmware. They've basically kind of run out of improvements or major areas for improvements that they could do in that package.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way this has worked for years, especially with electronic lenses, all older cameras, not just Red, as the processing gets better and more powerful and quicker and all of that stuff, that's where you get some of those gains, and that's why Komodo X and Raptor have better autofocus performance technically than the OG Komodo, which is now 4 years old.
Yeah, I mean, V-Raptor has way more processing than Komodo X, and V-Raptor
I hope it doesn't have an
does.
effect on the Hasselblad system.
Yeah, my guess is, Webbles, that it would not, just because it's different. Sorry, I had to sneeze. That was weird. It's what they're concerned about is the tracking that DJI drones tend to do.
And continued military use.
Yeah.
That you can modify. I mean, we've seen them modified for that purpose. So
I don't think it would affect Hasselblad, and I feel like if they ban it tomorrow, that there's ways that DJI can come right back. All they have to do is comply with whatever it is. And sadly, with the government, they probably just want access to everything. They want you to they probably want DJI to track. They just want to have access to all of that.
They want to see every bit of what the hardware can do on the processor level.
And they want to see every user and what they're doing. My guess.
No, Uncle Sam will not buy or use DJI gear.
No, they won't.
No, but you'll have like a prohibition thing, so you can run your drones in like underground basements.
Be like a DJI drone rave.
Yeah.
Imagine being a company being so bad that rather than spend money on R&D, you spend money on just trying to delete the competition. I mean, there's that. I was actually talking about the Komodo X. Oh, sorry, Komodo X. Can RF lenses focus?
Super saturation is a strategy for competitors. If you saturate the market with certain products, you can certainly swamp out, is that the right term? Or push out other competitors, I guess.
Felipe, on the Komodo X, I don't know for certain, but I feel like I've heard some rumblings that you know in the Canon RF cameras, you can adjust the sensitivity of that ring
It
and
depends
allow it
on the
to.
lens. That's the biggest problem. And if you heard my note about the VCM lens, I have not been able to put that on a red camera yet, but I'm dying to know how that pulls focus because that motor out of the current Canon electric lenses is the most responsive follow focus or manual focus.
Is it using a linear actuator inside?
No, it's a voice coil motor, and I think they're using two of them. And then the floating group, which allows for the pretty good close focus on that, is a USM motor. But the pull, when you're manually pulling, was extremely responsive on both the C400 and an R5. Just tried Balcom 25.
Oh, what? The
Is
the
it
Balcom.
not? I might be able to fix that
Wow,
while we're on stream.
we're gonna fix that live right now. Link
Don't
to the
hack me
Scotty
while I'm
BZ.
doing
Yeah,
this.
soon. I'm not gonna spoil anything because Mr. Claggett and his production company are like, you know how you have like a list of people that you want Santa Claus to like just accidentally drop all the sack of presents on, and Art and his group of creatives there is one of those people, and when something happens here soon, I will share all of that, and all I can say is just wow. It's just wow, 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 wow. But we're gonna get that coupon code fixed. It depends on whether we can agree on the word coupon, or coupon.
That would be very
Apparently,
hard to buy DJI out. They're very big.
DJI is huge now.
When I
I mean, they have a
the first trip I
huge.
went to, no, second trip to Hong Kong and saw the DJI store inside the airport, I was like,
Yeah.
that's insane to me.
Damn.
Okay, so we need to do this. Oh my gosh, this is way more complicated than it should be.
Yeah, typically, and like one of them, what we call it, the main, the one I use for Scotty's good stuff, ScottyBGoods, .com. Can't remember the name of it. It's really bad at like coupon codes. You can have one, and when it expires, you can't have it again. You have to create a whole new one. It's just weird. But I think we're about to get a coupon code here, or a coupon code, or coupon code, depending on which
going
part of
to
the
make
country.
one.
Or
I'm trying to see if I actually deactivated Balcom 20 or if I
it
somehow
probably
broke it.
just it
I broke
probably
it,
like
probably.
expired. Come on, just go with the expired.
Okay. I'll call it Balcom 20.
There you go. Or you can call it Balcom 20, depending on where you are.
Yeah. I'm going to call it Balcom 25. How's that?
Oh, wow. Way to go, Art. You just got everybody an extra 5% off.
Good. Uses. Good. 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 Not breaking anything. Should be live. All right. Balcom 25. All caps.
Let's see. Oh, all caps. Hold on. I'm going to type this in as we go. Balcom 25 for... What would be funny is if you'd only made it 20% off.
No, I'm not that bad at this.
That would be funny, though. Typing off. Wow. My keys are off.
I will say
Save.
the next film color is not going to be a free upgrade. That's the best thing I can
Yes,
say
you
about
did say that before. That the work you're putting into this next one is next level, and it's not additions. It's
No, it's a bunch of new stuff. I just couldn't. I shouldn't have released R3 as a free upgrade. Like looking back at that was stupid.
Well,
But it's what it is.
So Balcom 25, Art, will get you
25
25% off.
Works.
It's actually filmcolor.com, but you can also go to phfx.com, which is a great resource, especially for tools if you're comparing, say, sensor sizes and such.
This has been a very satisfying project. I mean, it's nice making the web tools and things like this where like people all over the world like use stuff, and it's just satisfying. Like was the last time? Last time I saw some really cool film color stuff came in from Japan, and it was a filmmaker I've never met, never heard of, and he just wanted to share his commercial work that he was doing out in Japan. I was like, that's so cool.
What'll be interesting though is seeing the day when you put like a light mode on your website. As you get older, I loved white
You
text on
hate
black.
my dark mode website.
No, I
with the
loved
dark
it.
mode
I had
website.
every website I ever did was that way. But as I got older, it's like I can't see it anymore. And I'm just waiting for you to reach that day where you're like, I want to put a light mode on here.
I have not updated my core PHFX website in so many years that I should probably sit down and just do that. I I mean, you guys
Probably.
know that I code and stuff, and I know a type of project that's going to be, because I don't want to use some, off the shelf thing. I like my
That's my
website.
sure.
To
I'd
be
love to hear your
basic.
thoughts on the X2D. Have you heard about
I
the
bought the
issue
X2D very recently. I will say this very honestly. It has been a very difficult purchasing journey. I had a tampered package and then another tampered package.
Oh,
I only have one of the lenses I purchased. But this camera is purpose designed for stills. Some of my close friends know that I still have a commercial, not a commercial, a professional still career with collectors. I used to do big prints for like convention centers, kind of strangely tied to some of the motion picture work I've done for exhibition screens. But we did a really big print a while ago, and I just wasn't willing to buy a phase one body that's 6-7 years old now. I love the camera, but I want them to do more. I would have preferred that
right.
format size, but I generally, I'll have another GFX in at some point. I usually have one of everything, which is pretty crazy.
Well, Fairless, it's funny. Anytime Frazzle Syntax puts one post, there's usually 3 or 4 to follow because it's very, very detailed. So let's
Okay.
read this one and then this one. Image characteristic. Yep. Motion,
Well, yeah, I generally agree about the testing mindset. And, even going back to when Dragon came out, I shot lots of charts and stuff and showed people stuff, but the people responded mostly to the footage I shot. And when I say the people, I mean like DPs out of the blue who only were working with film were like, wow, this camera's got something that the Mysterium X didn't. I'm going to read that. I missed that last bit.
sorry.
Very tech talk. I just saw
Yeah,
it. That's so funny you brought him up.
It's interesting. A lot of people like my reviews because of the footage, and then some people hate it because I don't have any like focus charts that they can compare. So that's why I've been branching out and doing a little bit of everything. Because
Strangely, a friend of mine has become friends with Eugene, who goes by Potato Jet, I think.
yep,
I don't know Eugene well, but
I know.
years ago I saw him do some sort of camera review, and he said he wasn't a chart person. And I've always been a both person. Like, you have to, if you don't shoot the charts and look into how you can measure the nuanced differences, you're going to be saying something that has no control. But
Correct.
the real world stuff is the thing that like you need to know more as a practical filmmaker. And I like having both answers. When I go out in the field and I'm shooting at 800 on my Raptor X, I know what type of actual dynamic range I'm dealing with above and below 18% gray. And even weirder, because I've been filming for so long, it really influences some unwrangled lighting decisions I have to make. Like, oh, I'm going to stop my lens down a stop or two to protect this highlight when we round this corner in a tree with the sun shooting through it's going to come into frame. Because I shoot crazy stuff, man. I'm like,
Right.
I'm on a controlled situation on a studio set and we have time to pre-light. That's easy mode in terms of like making things tight. But when you're in the real world and you're trying to figure out how much the haze is cutting the light, and you're working off of intuition, experience, and all that stuff, and then also tying in that little technical jazz, I love that. That's very exciting stuff to me.
I always feel like a review needs to stand on its own, whether it be a lens or a camera. It needs to be able to stand on its own so that if somebody's looking at it, they can look at it and see everything to their own opinion and then compare it to something else that is comparable and equal
Yeah.
displayed in the same way, so they can make their own decision. I don't want to put my bias or opinions on people.
Well, one of
But
the you'll love this, Scott. You know how I occasionally just bump on and do an Instagram live?
sometimes, yes, you do.
Someone said you're my favorite camera reviewer out there, and I told him, show me a camera review I've done.
Right?
I don't review cameras. I test imaging systems, and I test them. I've been releasing some of that to the public, but I get hired to do that from studios, productions, companies, whatever. And then there's also the factor of I got to know that stuff from my own projects, which is why you guys see some of those results publicly, because taking the time to do all that stuff's like a pain in the butt, frankly.
It is, and it's.
But I like to put the results out there and just like let it
Right.
happen.
I have no problem giving people my opinion, but I never ever want to tell you should buy this because of this. I
Yeah.
want people to, here's the information, here's my bias, here's my opinion. You decide for yourself. My favorite quote right now, I just got a comment the other day, and I literally chuckled in the airport as I got it, was they were watching my Nano X review, and they said, this is the best battery review I've ever watched in my life. Because I had puppets on there and everything that was completely irrelevant to.
And that's the important part about that. That's unique to what you're doing.
I try to be different, and I try to be real. And
Yeah.
puppets are as real as they get.
You try to be real with puppets. What's going on here?
Hey! Puppets are real people. They are.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this one up. What kind of final thoughts do you have about anything or everything? Or
The industry is still in a weird spot because of strikes last year, and maybe still some pending negotiations that will last until July. I've been talking to a lot of people who haven't been working regularly. I've been very fortunate where that's not necessarily been the case for my life. But I have been talking to studios, and I think that there's the famous phrase right now, like survive till 25 and all that junk. The real thing that's going to happen in 25 is, because there's no writer strike this year pending and late into the year, people have the ability to create content as well as produce it, essentially get the budgets organized. So next year will probably look a little bit more normal, but we're also in a time of consolidation. I think people are using the term shrinking of the workforce and stuff. I like to work nimble, as well as when needed to go crazy, get a big crew, whatever. Sometimes you need it, but I don't know, I'd stay positive if it's been rough for you. I think you'll see a motivated bump after July. I don't know how it's going to be for everybody, but I have a very good suspicion about that.
I'm probably a little more pessimist on the things that I've heard on that. I believe that you need to be able to hang on through 2025, and then we'll be back to not necessarily the way things were, but everybody that's left will be working in 2020, the end of 2025 is kind of what I'm hearing. And that if you have a way to hang on, because do whatever you can to smile every day, because it's tough.
Well, the word I used to use all the time, and I've been trying to use it less, is our industry has become frighteningly dynamic. There's a pie graph right now where there's people in this slice of the pie graph who've been busy this entire time, but the rest of the industry has been kind of not, or unusually not busy in some times of the year, whatever it pans out to. Maybe I should start saying tilts up to, but the long and the short though is, you are going to see, I think, a surprising boost in commercial production as more streaming services have commercialized tiers. I'm not saying we're going to see like the biggest boost like commercial industry in the 90s and 2000s and $7 million commercials or anything like that, but like you'll see more regularity out of that probably fairly soon. I think streaming is still going to be busy. Yeah.
I don't think we're going back to the way things were 3 years ago or 2 years ago, but I think we will.
Yeah.
Who's left will be working if you could just get through it, just muddle through it however you can. Because if it's your
2021 was that
passion,
rubber band effect of coming
yeah,
out of the pandemic with nobody working,
right.
and then suddenly everyone needing work, and that honestly
Yep.
provided a lot of great opportunities for people. So
Well, it showed people different ways, and
yeah.
it allowed what people said was impossible before, not necessarily impossible. So,
On the studio side, for people working on union productions, where I live, where you just were, you saw at the Warner Brothers lot, the functioning lot, but you didn't know on the hill behind, they tore down some of that back lot on the hill and they're building new sound stages. And even crazier, Warner is blowing over $2 billion on their Oak Street campus. And that's being torn down and built into new stages and stuff. So they're investing in local infrastructure a fair bit. And Universal's already built quite a few new sound stages. So it's not like those sound stages are not planning on being used, if you catch my drift.
I need to correct this. It's not 25% off. It's
Oh, was it
$25.
supposed to be 25% off?
It's whatever you
You
say
did
it
not
is.
specify.
It's whatever you want it to be.
I didn't put the percent in there.
You're Phil.
25% off. That's a good deal. That's
Well, I will type in whatever you have.
I don't
Wait,
normally
I
do
fixed that. That's weird. I literally just typed that
25%
in.
off is a better deal. Okay. All right. I'm sold on that.
What?
I'll do 25 on you.
25%?
We can haggle.
Hold on. All right. Well, we're doing it for you folks. For you folks.
Wait, isn't 25% not a better deal? Wait, what am I doing here?
25% would be a better deal, I would think. Film color is a reasonably priced product.
Okay.
Tell me what you want it to be, and I can't. There we go.
Same discount code is now 25% off.
There we go. All right, I'm gonna change this back.
That is also, wait, I think that does come out to the same. Am I crazy?
Does it? I thought. Wait,
Hold
maybe I
on.
haven't priced this in a while.
Oh no, it should be. Oh, you know what I'll do? Here's what I'll do.
Right.
I will make this even better.
All right, let's do it.
This is for the stream people who stayed this long.
I feel like we're on an infomercial now, but wait, there's more?
No, I'll make this much better. So there's no confusion about it. It is the discount code is now Balcom75,
Holy hell. What are we doing
and
now?
now you're getting $75 off, and that's 25%.
It's a win-win for everything. So Balcom 75 now, or is Balcom
Twisting my
25?
arm. I'll do it this once.
What's the coupon code? Is it Balcom 75?
Now it's Balcom. Did I change the code? Did I fail?
I don't know.
I failed. Hold on.
It's Balcom 25. You have to sing, and it's $75 off, but not percentage.
I will make it. Oh gosh, this interface is not my favorite thing in the world. Okay, hold on. Balcom.
What do we have to do to put you into some film color today? Is what?
No, I'm not desperate. It sells pretty well.
And to be perfectly transparent, this is all Phil. I don't have anything to do with this. This is just.
I'll
Phil
buy you a
being
beer
Phil.
next time I see you.
No, I'll buy
Okay,
you a beer. I already told you that.
There it is.
Balcom 75?
Done.
All
Yeah.
right. Done. And I'm going to save it. And
I
I'm
will
gonna,
say I am the worst at advertising my crap. I should be on.
you're not too great at coupon codes. We'll say that. But,
Hey.
I mean, it's pretty good. I'll give you that
I'm
one.
still surviving and struggling after the show and sleep for a week. You know how it goes.
And you can get the $75 off, and you can still buy them a coffee. There.
No, I mean it's the Cinegear time of year. We should make it a nice deal. And I know people have been hurting. Let's do 75. Like that's good times.
So much more deals. Phil, I'll take a fist bump at NAB next year.
You know, it was funny. The first day I counted hugs, fist pumps, high fives. I tried to catalog all of it, and I just got lost in the fuzz because there were moments where I was, saying hi to 6 to 8 people at a time.
Right.
I
You
was
got a
hoping to have
finger
like a
tap
really
at
good
on the
rundown.
shoulder.
Got
Well, I
a
believe
few phantom taps.
you got a handshake and a hug from me. It
Yeah,
was a handshake, and then my arms went out, and you would go, oh well, okay. We got a hug out
yeah.
of that.
I, it's always fun because you have these different relationships with people, and just like everything, if you don't see someone in a long time, you never know what you're going to get when you first see them
Right.
again. And some people surprise you. Girl I hadn't seen in a while just randomly walked up to me and kissed me on the cheek. I was like, I haven't seen you in 3 years. Like, you got to prepare me.
Wait a minute. I'll give you $75 off. Just use coupon code Balcom75.
I am grateful I did not get the Balcom butt grab though. That's
Only Eric can get that, and he only gets it once, really. Because like now he's going to expect it. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't me.
Is there any talk about the L zone exposure system over the past weeks? Not that I
Where do
know
you see
of.
that?
Art Claggett on the YouTube comments.
Oh, there.
Yeah, just saw that. I have both things open.
ELZO versus.
No one's brought it up on the Red ecosystem. L zone's good, but we have also that good already, and for a while through the video check, and even more useful through Geoscope.
Yeah,
And I know that's a tough one.
I'm all about the Geoscope now. It's a win.
I think L zone's good. I think honestly, whatever people can use to make
Well,
things,
anything you can use consistently is good.
yeah.
Yeah.
But 18% gray across all of Red's tools, except for Geoscope, which shows you gray on the sensor level, is accurate to a meter. Like, I've done that work. They've adjusted their middle gray point a couple times over the years too. So
let's wrap this up. Anything further you want to say?
it's good to see you, man. And
Absolutely.
I'll
Glad
definitely
you
shoot
didn't
you
grab my
out there
butt
when
or I
you-
didn't grab yours. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. But I hope you had a good time. I know it was kind of a whirlwind sort of week, but it was a good Cinegear when it comes down to it.
It was a lot of cool stuff, and everybody. There was a lot of people there, and everybody that was there was trying to be in the best spirits possible, which I think is the best for creativity and the future. So I was glad to see that. And yeah, I wish we got to hang
Thank you
out
for
more,
having
but
me. And
of course,
talking shop. I'm
anytime.
probably going to be testing a few more lenses before I get out of town. My next project is being filmed on Raptor X, but I am going to bring a few still cameras with me. I don't mind saying that too.
Ooh, interesting.
And, yeah, you take care. Pet the wife, and kiss the dog. Whatever I say to you normally.
Rex is looking at me like, bro, it's after 6. What are you doing?
All right. Thank you all.
Right, I appreciate
everyone
you.
in chat, and you do your outro.
Yeah, I will do. Thanks everyone for joining in and having such a fun and energetic and always educational live stream with Phil being there. It is a pleasure for him to join us, and I greatly appreciate his time as always. Literally, Rex just comes over here. He's sitting down. He's like, dude, you're closing it out. I know you are. But thank you, everyone. There's going to be a couple reviews get popped out real fast next week, and then I'll be doing stuff for the nature shoot for the next week and a half. So good stuff coming up. Going to be lots of footage for you guys to inspect. But thank you all. Remember, become a channel member if you want to become part of the cool kids, and please use the B&H affiliate links or the Amazon links if you're in America, because apparently they don't work anywhere else. And yeah, as always, as I like to leave it, don't let your passions center around your life. Let your life center around your passions. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Rick says, I'm over here. I can't even show him.